Well, good morning and welcome to the Creek and this, the July 25th episode of Creek Life. So, do you know what it's like to move from hungry to hangry? You know, that place where folks get where the nicest folks become snappy and easily irritated until they get food. A headache is forming. Quality is no longer a high priority. Just give me something to eat before I start snatching heads off of baby dolls. I've been there. Have you? When you're hangry, or just a little hungry, it's difficult to see straight. Even recall the simplest lessons in life. Humans need nourishment or they go a little crazy. Today's lesson is about Jesus going the extra mile to satisfy the mind-distorting hunger, which not only filled the bellies of 5,000, but also provided a spiritual meal as well. Listen, John 6, 1 through 21. After this, Jesus went to the other side of the Sea of Galilee, also called the Sea of Tiberias. A large crowd kept following him because they saw the signs that he was doing for the sick. Jesus went up the mountain and sat down there with his disciples. Now the Passover, the feast of the Jews, was near. When he looked up and saw a large crowd coming toward him, Jesus said to Philip, "Where are we to buy bread for these people to eat?" He said this to test him, for he himself knew what he was going to do. Philip answered him, 6 months' wages would not buy enough bread for each of them to get a little. One of his disciples, Andrew, Simon Peter's brother, said to him, "There is a boy here who has 5 barley loaves and 2 fish. But what are they among so many people?" Jesus said, "Make the people sit down." Now there was a great deal of grass in the place, so they sat down, about 5,000 in all. Then Jesus took the loaves, and when he had given thanks, he distributed them to those who were seated. So also the fish, as much as they wanted. They were satisfied. He told his disciples, "Gather up the fragments left over so that nothing may be lost." So they gathered them up, and from the fragments of the 5 barley loaves left by those who had eaten, they filled 12 baskets. When the people saw the sign that he had done, they began to say, This is indeed the prophet who is to come into the world." When Jesus realized that they were about to come and take him by force to make him king, he withdrew again to the mountain by himself. Jesus has in mind here to do more than just feed folks. Now that's cool, truly amazing to be sure, to feed 5,000 plus people with little or nothing. 5 loaves of barley bread and a couple of fish. Jesus had in mind to feed his disciples a spiritual meal as he tested them to correct their spiritual hungry minds that was calling something impossible despite all the seemingly impossible things they'd already seen Jesus do as Jesus loved on humankind. You only have to go back a little ways in the Gospel of John to see Jesus had already begun to feed their faith. Jesus roots that faith in how he treats people in giving, forgiving, and serving people. All kinds of people. In how he loves them as he heals their physical issues and feeds them. These folks were poor. And poor folks generally struggle with health care and proper nutrition. Jesus roots and grounds his ministry in loving folks. Paul says that Christ dwells in our hearts through faith as we are rooted and grounded in love. Check it out, Ephesians 3:14. Here in John 6, Christ sets the example. Even when you don't think you have enough, or you think you're not enough, in the hands of Jesus, you and what you offer are all God needs to do something wonderful. To love folks, serve folks, feed folks, heal folks, hundreds, maybe thousands. I think the young boy who gave up his meager lunch learned this lesson as did the disciples. Jesus served a satisfying meal to 5,000 with a boy's snack pack. And so that that lesson would not be lost, or someone might suggest maybe there was really no food at all. He just fooled them into thinking they were satisfied. Well, he had the disciples collect 12 baskets of leftovers. Who knows how many more that would feed in the hands of Jesus. Offer what little you are, what little you have, into the hands of Jesus by faith, rooted in serving, forgiving, and giving to others. Perhaps you've heard the phrase, little means much when God is in it. Look, I know the world always says bigger is better. Smaller is not good. There is strength in numbers and few becomes unimportant. The rich and famous are more important than the poor and insignificant. This is the way of the world. Perhaps today, circumstances have left you feeling small, weak, unimportant, and unable to affect anything. The pandemic has left so many feeling alone and hopeless. The truth here is, whether folks big or small, more or less in number, rich or poor, strong or weak, well, that's really not the issue. The issue is, will you and I, by faith, put all we have in the hand of God for His kingdom and His kingdom work? Start with the lessons of faith right here in the Bible. Seek to know Jesus and His ways every day. But don't just know about what Jesus did. Practice it every day in small ways so you can understand it with the little you might have. Do it today. Don't be afraid. Seek to heal and feed folks in small ways. Perhaps just make a phone call to encourage or a note. Make it an everyday thing to connect with folks with the healing and love of Jesus in mind. They need it right now. Perhaps you can invite someone you're uncomfortable with to lunch, to coffee, to your home, to a conversation. Folks all around you are feeling disconnected. Forgive them for making you uncomfortable. Serve them. Give them your time, a meal, the presence of Christ dwelling in you. Paul says that Christ has the power at work within us, is able to accomplish abundantly far more than we can ask or imagine. Ephesians 3:20. Be blessed as you seek to know Christ, to understand Christ, and be a blessing as you give yourself and the seemingly little you have compared to God's riches, that He will use you so others may be filled with His fullness, a little at a time or maybe a lot. Amen.